Donald Trump is one step closer to the Republican presidential nomination after a massive win over Nikki Haley in South Carolina. The former president won his primary opponent's home state by a 20-point margin, his fourth consecutive victory. Mr. Trump made no mention of his rival as he celebrated, setting his sights instead on the general election in November. That will be a likely rematch with his successor in the White House. "We're going to look Joe Biden right in the eye. He's destroying our country. And we're going to say, 'Get out, Joe, you're fired,'" he told supporters minutes after the race projection was made. Mr. Trump lauded his party's unity after Saturday's win, which is likely something he is aiming to cement ahead of what is expected to be a bruising general election. Perhaps that is why the former president avoided mention of Ms. Haley in his victory speech. It marks a shift from last month's primary in New Hampshire, where the former president raged against her for doing a speech like she won, following his blowout win there. Ms. Haley, who once served as a popular two-term governor of South Carolina, congratulated her opponent on his victory in her speech on Saturday night. She remained committed to providing voters a different option, however. At her campaign event on Saturday, she vowed to stay in the race, saying the roughly 40% of the vote she received is not some tiny group. "There are huge numbers of voters in our Republican primaries who are saying they want an alternative," she said, emphasizing that her continued campaign is not about her own political ambitions. "I'm not giving up this fight when a majority of Americans disapprove of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden," she added. The Trump campaign dismissed Ms. Haley's continued effort in a statement on Saturday, stating that her delusion is clouding her judgment and she is no longer living in reality. In the days leading up to the South Carolina vote, the Trump campaign predicted the former president will accumulate enough delegates to formally clinch the nomination within the next month. In truth, Ms. Haley does not have a clear path forward. Her opponent has a large lead in the delegate count and is polling far ahead in all future contests. And yet the Haley campaign remains standing, in large part, due to contributions from deep-pocketed donors. That flow of cash has not diminished greatly despite her facing long odds. Ms. Haley raised $16.5 million in January alone, campaign officials said. That's her largest monthly total so far, and it blew past Mr. Trump's numbers. Still, Saturday's result not only continues Mr. Trump's clean sweep in the 4 statewide contests that have taken place so far, but further buries Ms. Haley's bid for the nomination in her home state. To drive home the point that he believes the primary has now ended, Mr. Trump wasted no time in making his victory speech mere moments after the race was called, not allowing Ms. Haley to speak before him as she had done in New Hampshire. Flanked at his podium on the Columbia State Fairgrounds by nearly 24 allies, including most of the state's political leaders, he told a raucous crowd, "This was a little sooner than we anticipated." Mr. Trump certainly has much to boast about with this win. Exit polling conducted by the BBC's U.S. partner, CBS News, shows that the ex-president bested Ms. Haley with both men and women and among all age groups. Lauding them for their support, Mr. Trump, 77, reminded his audience, "We have a lot of work ahead of us." But it does not seem he will be able to fully turn his attention to the general election just yet. Ms. Haley recommitted to staying in the race until at least Super Tuesday, the 5th of March, when voters in 16 states will cast their ballots on the same day. "I'm a woman of my word. I'm not giving up this fight," the former UN ambassador said. The former president also remains beleaguered by his many legal troubles and faces the first of 4 criminal trials next month. He is also now on the hook for more than $500 million, the combined total of 2 recent civil trial rulings against him in New York, one for sexual assault and defamation, and another for business fraud. As Mr. Biden racks up a sizable cash advantage over him in what will likely be the most expensive presidential race in U.S. history, Mr. Trump is increasingly relying on donations to cover his soaring legal costs. It appears the Republican Party could come to his aid. He has consolidated his hold over it by endorsing key allies to lead its national committee. His daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, his pick to take over as co-chair of the Republican Party, has pledged to spend every penny of party funds on his legal defense.